My own mother looked me in the eye and said I was banned from my sister's wedding because my presence would be a distraction. 3 months later, my Eiffel Tower photo shoot got 4 million views while her wedding photos got 200 likes. You won't believe what happened next. Before we continue, please subscribe and hit that notification bell. This story is about more than just revenge. It is about what happens when the scapegoat finally stops apologizing for existing. My name is Charlotte, and I am 27 years old. I work as a freelance photographer specializing in architectural and travel photography. I scrape by with enough income to cover rent on my small studio apartment in Charleston, South Carolina, and keep my camera equipment maintained. For years, I convinced myself that being the overlooked daughter was just the way things were in my family. My younger sister, Rebecca, 3 years my junior, had always been the golden child. She was prettier, more charming, more successful in my parents' eyes. She landed a high-paying job at a marketing firm right out of college. She married a wealthy investment banker named Marcus. She lived in a pristine townhouse that my mother loved to brag about at her book club meetings. I was the one they forgot at Christmas. The one whose birthday got overshadowed by Rebecca's latest achievement. The eternal disappointment who never quite fit the family image. But this was different. This was not just being forgotten. This was deliberate exclusion from what my mother kept calling the event of the decade. I sat on the floral couch in my parents' living room on a Tuesday afternoon in March. The light filtered through the curtains, casting soft shadows across my mother's perfectly manicured hands folded on her lap. But there was nothing soft about the words she had just delivered. "You understand why you cannot come, do not you?" my mother said, her voice as casual as if she were discussing the weather. "Rebecca's dream wedding is not about you, Charlotte. It is about her perfect day. And frankly, your presence would just be complicated." "Complicated how?" I asked, keeping my voice steady even though my hands trembled slightly. My mother sighed as if explaining this to me was exhausting. "Rebecca has invited 300 guests. Everyone who matters will be there. The venue alone cost them $75,000. She is wearing a custom Vera Wang gown. There will be photographers from 2 bridal magazines. This is not some backyard barbecue, Charlotte. This is a statement, and I would ruin that statement. You know how you are," she said, and that phrase hit me harder than anything else. You never quite fit. You are always in your jeans and that old camera bag. Rebecca's friends are all polished, put-together people. You would feel uncomfortable anyway. I wanted to argue. I wanted to point out that I own nice dresses, that I could look presentable when needed, that being a photographer did not make me some kind of social pariah. But the truth was, this was not really about my wardrobe. This was about hierarchy. This was about keeping me in my place. "Does Rebecca know you are telling me this?" I asked. My mother's expression flickered just for a second. "We discussed it as a family. Your father agrees it is for the best. And honestly, Charlotte, you should be relieved. $750,000 for a wedding. That is the kind of pressure you would not want to be around anyway. $750,000. The number was obscene. That was more than I had earned in the past 5 years combined, and they were spending it on a single day, a single event that I was not allowed to witness because I might somehow tarnish it with my presence. I stood up slowly, grabbing my camera bag from beside the couch. My mother watched me with that same calm expression as if she had just delivered perfectly reasonable news. "I understand," I said quietly. She looked almost relieved. "I knew you would. You have always been so sensible about these things." Sensible. That was her word for compliant. For accepting whatever scraps of affection the family tossed my way. I walked toward the door, my boots making soft sounds on the hardwood floor. Just before I reached it, I turned back. "When is it? The wedding?" "June 15th. But Charlotte, I really think it is better if—" "I just wanted to know," I interrupted. "For my calendar." I left before she could say anything else. As I drove away from their pristine colonial house, I felt something shift inside me. It was not anger. Not exactly. It was clarity. Cold, sharp clarity about exactly where I stood in this family and what I was worth to them. June 15th was 3 months away. 3 months that they would spend preparing for Rebecca's perfect day while I was expected to simply disappear. To make myself conveniently absent so nobody would have to explain why the older sister was not there. I pulled into a coffee shop parking lot and sat in my car for a long time, staring at my phone. Then I opened my banking app and looked at my savings account. $3,270. That was everything I had managed to save over the past 2 years. Every wedding I had photographed, every corporate headshot session, every penny I had not spent on rent or equipment repairs. It was supposed to be my emergency fund, my safety net. The thing that would keep me from being homeless if work dried up. But sitting there in that parking lot, watching other people come and go with their lattes and their normal family lives, I made a decision. I was going to Paris. Not for them. Not to spite them. For me? Because I had always wanted to go to Paris. Because I deserved to celebrate myself even if nobody else would. Because I was done making myself small to accommodate their comfort. I opened my laptop right there in the car and started searching for flights. Round trip to Paris, departing June 14th, returning June 17th. The weekend of Rebecca's wedding. The ticket cost me $1,800, almost more than half my savings. My hands shook as I entered my credit card information. This was reckless. This was financially irresponsible. This was the most spontaneous thing I had ever done in my life. I clicked purchase. The confirmation email arrived 30 seconds later. I sat there staring at it, feeling simultaneously terrified and exhilarated. I had just bought a ticket to Paris. I was going to miss my sister's wedding by choice, not just by exclusion. I was going to do something for myself, something extraordinary, something that had nothing to do with accommodating their preferences or making myself invisible. Over the next 3 months, I planned my trip with the same meticulous attention I gave to my photography assignments. I researched locations, studied the best times for natural light, mapped out a schedule that would maximize every minute. I told exactly 3 people about my plans. My best friend, Natalie, who immediately offered to come with me but understood when I explained I needed to do this alone. My therapist, who had been encouraging me for years to set boundaries with my family. And my neighbor, Mrs. Chen, who agreed to water my plants while I was gone. I did not tell my parents. I did not tell Rebecca. As far as they knew, I had simply accepted my exclusion and moved on, which, in a way, I had, but not in the way they expected. The week before the wedding, my mother called. I almost did not answer, but curiosity got the better of me. "Charlotte, I wanted to check in with you," she said, her voice carefully neutral. "I know this weekend might be difficult for you." "I am fine, Mom." "Are you? Because your father and I were thinking maybe you could come to the reception." "Not the ceremony, of course, but afterward." Rebecca agreed it might be nice. "How generous," I said, unable to keep the edge from my voice. "There is no need to be like that. We are trying to include you." "You are trying to throw me a bone," I said. "You banned me from my own sister's wedding, and now you are offering me a consolation prize." "Thanks, but no thanks. I will be busy that weekend anyway." "Busy with what?" "With living my life, Mom. The life I am apparently not polished enough to share with your important guests." She was silent for a moment. "You are being very immature about this." "Maybe," I agreed. "Or maybe I am finally being honest about how your choices make me feel. Either way, I have plans that weekend. Have a nice time at the wedding." I hung up before she could respond. My hands were shaking, but this time it was not from fear. It was from adrenaline, from the unfamiliar sensation of standing up for myself. June 14th arrived. I woke up at 4 in the morning, too excited and nervous to sleep. My flight left at 11. I had packed and repacked my suitcase 3 times, making sure I had everything I needed. My camera equipment. 3 different outfits for the photo shoot I had planned. A white dress I had found at a vintage shop that looked almost like a wedding gown if you did not look too closely. At 7 in the morning, Natalie showed up at my apartment with coffee and bagels. "You ready for this?" she asked, settling onto my couch. "I think so. This is either the best decision I have ever made or the worst." "It is the best," Natalie said firmly. "You are choosing yourself. That is never wrong." "What if they are right?" I asked, voicing the fear that had been gnawing at me. "What if I am just being petty and jealous?" "Charlotte," Natalie said, setting down her coffee and looking at me seriously. "You are not jealous of Rebecca. You are hurt that your family has spent your entire life treating you as less important. Going to Paris is not about revenge. It is about refusing to let their rejection define your worth." I nodded, blinking back tears. "Besides," she added with a grin, "you are going to take the most amazing photos, make them so good that people forget Rebecca's wedding ever happened." I laughed despite myself. "That is definitely revenge." "Good revenge, though," she said. "The kind where you win by living well." The flight to Paris was long and cramped. I sat in a middle seat between a businessman who snored and a college student who watched movies without headphones at an unreasonable volume. But I did not care. I was going to Paris. I was doing this for myself. Every moment of discomfort was worth it. We landed at Charles de Gaulle Airport early Saturday morning. June 15th. Rebecca's wedding day. I took a taxi to my tiny hotel in the Marais district, a room so small I could touch both walls if I stretched out my arms. But it had a window overlooking a charming cobblestone street, and it was mine. All mine. I dropped my bags, changed into comfortable clothes, grabbed my camera, and headed out into the city. Paris in June was everything I had imagined and more. The light was golden and soft. The air smelled like fresh bread and coffee. Everywhere I looked, there was beauty worth photographing. I spent the day wandering, taking photos of architecture and street scenes, eating a croissant from a bakery that made me understand why French pastries were famous. Around 4 in the afternoon, Charleston time, Rebecca's wedding would be starting. I stood on the Pont Alexandre III bridge, watching the Seine flow beneath me, and felt nothing but peace. No regret. No sadness. Just peace. That evening, I returned to my hotel and rested. Tomorrow was the main event. The sunrise shoot at the Eiffel Tower that I had been planning for months. I set 3 alarms, terrified I would oversleep. I did not need to worry. I was awake at 4:30, too excited to sleep. I put on the white vintage dress, did my makeup, packed my camera equipment, and headed out into the pre-dawn darkness. The city was quiet at this hour. A few delivery trucks rumbled past. A handful of early morning joggers. The metro was nearly empty. I arrived at the Trocadero Gardens just before sunrise. The Eiffel Tower rose before me, elegant and timeless against the lightening sky. I set up my tripod, adjusted my camera settings, and started shooting. The light changed moment by moment, deep blue to purple to pink to gold. I took photos of the tower. I took photos of myself against the tower using the timer and a remote shutter. I changed poses, trying to capture something that felt authentic and joyful. I was not trying to look like a bride. I was trying to look like myself, like a woman who chose herself, like someone who was worth celebrating. Other photographers started arriving as the sun rose higher. A few tourists. An elderly French woman walking her dog stopped to watch me and smiled. "Très belle," she said. "You celebrate yourself. This is good." "Yes," I said, grinning. "I am celebrating myself." I took my favorite shot at exactly 6:17 in the morning. The golden sunlight caught the edge of my dress. The Eiffel Tower soared behind me. My expression was pure joy, unfiltered, genuine joy. I looked at the photo on my camera screen and started crying. Not sad tears. Happy tears. Because I had done it. I had chosen myself. I had created something beautiful just for me. I spent the rest of the day exploring Paris with Natalie, who had decided to surprise me and fly in after all. We ate at tiny bistros. We visited the Louvre. We drank wine at a cafe overlooking the Luxembourg Gardens. We talked about everything and nothing. And I did not think about Rebecca's wedding once. On Monday morning, sitting in the airport waiting for my flight home, I posted one photo to my Instagram account. My personal account that had maybe 200 followers, mostly other photographers and friends from college. The sunrise shot at the Eiffel Tower. Me in my white dress, the tower behind me, golden light everywhere. I captioned it simply, "Sometimes the best celebration is the one you give yourself. Paris, you were everything I needed." Then I put my phone away and boarded my flight home. I did not check Instagram again until I landed in Charleston 12 hours later. When I finally turned off airplane mode, my phone exploded with notifications. Hundreds of them. My Instagram post had somehow gone viral. Not just popular. Viral. 4 million views. 15,000 comments. 40,000 shares across various platforms. People were calling it everything from empowerment to revenge to art. Women were sharing their own stories of family exclusion and choosing themselves. Photographers were analyzing my composition and lighting. Someone had started a hashtag, celebrating yourself, with thousands of posts. I sat in my car in the airport parking lot, scrolling through the comments with shaking hands. This is what self-love looks like. Your family is missing out on an amazing person. I was not invited to my sister's baby shower, and this inspired me to take myself to the spa instead. Thank you. I am a wedding photographer, and this shot is better than 90% of the bridal photos I have taken. The technical skill here is incredible. My own sister excluded me from her graduation party. Seeing this made me realize I do not need her approval to celebrate my accomplishments. Then I saw the messages, direct messages from people I had not heard from in years. From other photographers asking about my technique, from magazines asking if I was available for interviews, from brands asking if I was interested in partnerships, and from my mother, 37 missed calls, 14 text messages, all increasingly frantic. The last one read, "Call me immediately. This is a disaster. You have ruined everything." I did not call her. Instead, I drove home, took a long shower, and went to sleep in my own bed. I would deal with the fallout tomorrow. For tonight, I was just going to enjoy the fact that 4 million people had seen me choose myself. And apparently, they thought it was beautiful. The next morning, I woke up to my phone ringing. My mother. I considered ignoring it, but after the 4th call, I answered. "Charlotte, what on earth were you thinking?" Her voice was sharp with anger. "Good morning to you too," I said, sitting up. "Do not be flippant. You posted that ridiculous photo during Rebecca's wedding. Do you have any idea how inappropriate that was?" I posted it on Monday, I corrected. 2 days after the wedding. It does not matter when you posted it. It is everywhere now. People keep sending it to Rebecca, asking if you are her sister, asking why you were not at the wedding. You have completely overshadowed her special day. I felt a surge of anger. Her special day that I was not invited to. That wedding that I was banned from because I would be a distraction. We explained the situation. This was Rebecca's time to shine, and you could not even give her that. You had to make it about yourself. I went to Paris, I said, my voice dangerously calm. I took photos that I am proud of. I posted one picture to my personal Instagram account. How is any of that about Rebecca? Because the timing was the only weekend I could afford the trip, I interrupted. Or did you expect me to schedule my entire life around an event I was not allowed to attend? Silence on the other end. Then tightly, Rebecca is very upset. Rebecca excluded me from her wedding without a conversation or explanation, I said. I am sorry if my life existing publicly upset her, but that is not my problem. This is exactly why we did not invite you, my mother snapped. This kind of attitude. This need for attention. You have always been jealous of your sister. I have never been jealous, I said, and I meant it. I have been hurt. I have been dismissed. I have been treated as less important my entire life. But I am not jealous. And I am done apologizing for existing. I hung up before she could respond. My hands were shaking. In all my years of accepting their treatment, I had never directly confronted my mother like that. It felt simultaneously empowering and terrifying. Within an hour, Rebecca called. I almost did not answer, but curiosity won. You sabotaged my wedding, she said immediately, her voice thick with tears or rage or both. I was not even in the same country as your wedding, I replied. You know what I mean. Everyone is talking about your stupid Paris photos instead of my wedding. I spent 3 months planning every detail, and you ruined it with one attention-seeking post. Rebecca, I did not do anything to you. It took photos in Paris. That is it. During my wedding weekend. You planned it specifically to take attention away from me. Actually, I planned it because it was the only weekend I was not expected to participate in family events, I said. Since I was not invited to yours, Mom explained why. No, I cut her off. Mom made excuses. There is a difference. You wanted me excluded, and you got what you wanted, but you do not get to control what I do with my own life and my own social media. I barely got any engagement on my wedding photos, Rebecca said, and now she was definitely crying. 200 likes. My wedding photographer's post got even less, but your stupid fake wedding shoot has gone viral. Do you know how that feels? Part of me wanted to feel sympathy, but a larger part felt nothing but cold satisfaction. I imagine it feels like being told you are not good enough to attend your sister's wedding, I said quietly, like being erased from family photos and events, like being the eternal disappointment who never quite measures up. So yes, Rebecca, I know exactly how that feels. She hung up on me. I sat on my couch staring at my phone, feeling both vindicated and hollowed out. This was what I wanted, was not it? For them to see me, to acknowledge my existence, to feel some consequence for how they treated me. But it did not feel as good as I thought it would. My phone buzzed. An email from a literary agent. I read your story in the comments of your viral post. Have you ever considered writing a book? I would love to discuss representation. I stared at the email for a long time. Then I started typing a response. Over the next few weeks, the attention continued. Magazines wanted interviews. Brands wanted partnerships, other photographers wanted to collaborate, and my family wanted me to take the post down. My father called. Charlotte, this has gone too far. Your mother is getting calls from her friends asking what happened. Rebecca is devastated. You need to delete that post and apologize. No, I said simply. No? He sounded shocked. No, I repeated. I did nothing wrong. I went on a trip. I took photos. I shared one on my personal social media. The fact that it went viral is not something I can control or apologize for. You are destroying this family. I am not destroying anything, I said. I am just refusing to be invisible anymore, and if that is too much for you to handle, that says more about you than it does about me. He hung up. A week later, the literary agent connected me with a publisher. They wanted a book about my experience, about choosing yourself when your family chooses someone else, about finding your worth when the people who should celebrate you refuse to see you. I signed the contract. The advance was more than I made in a year of photography work. Suddenly, I had financial security, options, freedom. My Instagram following grew from 200 to 200,000. Brands started paying me for sponsored posts. I was able to quit taking wedding gigs I hated and focus on the architectural and travel photography I loved. 6 months after Paris, I spoke at a conference in New York about self-worth and boundaries. 1,000 people in the audience. I told my story. I showed the Paris photos. I talked about the viral response and everything that followed. And then I said something I had been thinking about for months. Going to Paris was not revenge. It was revolution. Personal revolution. The quiet kind that happens when you stop asking for permission to exist fully and start granting it to yourself. My family wanted me to be invisible, and for years I complied. But in Paris, I made myself visible. And I discovered that when you shine your own light, you do not need anyone else's approval to be luminous. The applause was deafening. After the conference, I walked through Central Park, reflecting on everything that had changed. My career was thriving in ways I never imagined possible. I had financial security, professional recognition, a platform to help others. But I had also lost my family. Or perhaps I had simply acknowledged a loss that had always existed. That evening, I received a text from an unknown number. When I opened it, I saw it was from Rebecca. I saw your New York speech online. You were right about some things. I have been thinking a lot this past year. I am in therapy now, working through my own issues. I am not ready to talk yet, but I wanted you to know I am trying to understand. It was not an apology. It was not a reconciliation, but it was acknowledgement. Maybe that was enough for now. I replied simply, I am glad you are taking care of yourself. When you are ready to talk, I am here. Whether she would ever take me up on that offer, I did not know, but I meant it. I had built a life that did not require her approval or presence, but there was still a part of me that hoped for healing. Not a return to the old dynamics, but something new and healthier. Months after the New York conference, the consequences of my family's choices became increasingly clear. My parents' social circle in Charleston had read my book, which had become a bestseller. Many had distanced themselves, uncomfortable with the revelations about how they had treated me. Their reputation in the community suffered as people realized the golden family image had been built on the erasure of one daughter. They retired early and moved to a smaller town where nobody knew their history, unable to face the judgment in their former neighborhood. Rebecca's career had stalled after the wedding incident and subsequent publicity. The marketing firm where she worked quietly let her go during a restructuring, though it was clear her viral notoriety had made her a liability. Marcus filed for divorce 8 months into their marriage. Unable to handle the social media fallout and what he called her obsession with appearances over substance, she moved back in with our parents for a while. A humbling experience for someone who had spent her life being celebrated as the successful one. As for me, I sat on my apartment balcony 2 years after that Paris sunrise, watching Charleston wake up on a peaceful morning. My second book was releasing next month, a guide to solo celebration and self-validation for women reclaiming their narratives. I had launched a successful online community for women navigating family exclusion, providing resources and support that I wished I had when I was younger. Natalie and I were planning another trip to Paris, this time just for pleasure rather than necessity. The journey from invisible daughter to woman with her own voice had been painful and messy and more complicated than any revenge fantasy could capture. But sitting there with my coffee, watching the morning light paint the city gold, I realized something important. I had not just escaped being overlooked. I had learned to see myself clearly, to celebrate myself genuinely, to shine without needing anyone's permission or approval. And in teaching others to do the same, I had found something more valuable than family acceptance. I had found purpose, community, and most importantly, I had found myself. Sometimes the best revenge is not punishment at all. Sometimes it is simply refusing to stay small, building a life so bright that those who tried to dim you cannot help but notice, and realize too late what they lost when they chose not to see you in the first place. If you enjoyed this story, please subscribe to our channel, hit that like button, and share this with someone who needs to hear it. Leave a comment below telling me your thoughts. Have you ever been the scapegoat in your family? How did you find your way to choosing yourself? Your story might help someone else. Until next time, remember that your worth is not determined by other people's inability to see it. You are enough. Your dreams matter. And sometimes the best thing you can do is celebrate yourself, even when nobody else will. Take care of yourselves out there, and never let anyone make you feel like a distraction when you are actually the main event.